the economy right now, and you think the Republicans would be cruising to victory, but it's not so, at least if you believe the polling. And I don't necessarily believe the polling. 538 now has the chances at 85% the Democrats retake the House of Representatives. Why aren't the Republicans, at least it appears, why aren't the Republicans, in your opinion, cruising to victory right now?
Well, I think it has to do with the way anger works. I mean, unfortunately, we have a lot of complacency on our side in the core voting group, which is why the president is barnstorming the nation to rally his base and bring them out. We saw this happen here locally in the Westchester County race, where the Westchester County Republican got 26,000 more votes in 2016, but still lost the election by 35,000 votes. So I'm out there campaigning. I was in Michigan last week. I was out in California, frankly, in two of those representative districts. And we've got 15 days or 14 days. So for me, that's like 1.5 mooches, if mooches are measured in a time unit of 11 days. We got to get in there, and we got to be as aggressive as possible in convincing people not to be complacent. The job numbers are great. Your wages are up. The slack has been cut out of the labor markets as a result of the enforcement of our immigration laws. But please get out there and vote, because if you don't vote, what's going to happen is you're going to get overwhelmed by the angry voters for whatever reason don't like the president's personality, want to see if they can put a hurt on him or check him in the House of Representatives.
But his message on behalf of the Republican Party is pretty clear right now. It's two themes largely. Number one is jobs, not mobs, which I think is very effective. And number two, stop the invasion. You know, you have this, it's basically a political gift coming from the South. As much as we don't want to see it happening, but this caravan, he's hammering that pretty hard. You think that's a dual winning message for the Republican Party?
Yeah, I think those two messages are great messages. I think the immigration has certainly been a great message for his base. But listen, the economy is booming. The lower 10% of the people in the United States are experiencing for the first time in 15 years a 5.5–6% wage bump. And so that's huge. One of the things I write in my book is that these people like the president because for the first time in 30 years, they finally have an advocate in the Oval Office. And so one of the things that we've been trying to do on the campaign is telling people that Republicans are going to be team players, helping the president in the House to continue to push policies that are good for your family. And just think about how brilliant the president's win was. He hijacked the Republican Party, took it away from the establishment, and then stole the base, the core base of the Democratic Party, and switched it over to the Republicans. And so we have to galvanize that now. We've got to get out there 24/7 until Election Day.
Yet Obama's out there taking credit for this economy, which is rather humorous. And speaking of messaging, in your book, Trump, the Blue-Collar President, you talk about how you actually not only supported Barack Obama, but you bundled for him. How does a guy go from supporting Barack Obama to White House Communications Director?
I'm Roman Catholic.
Huh?
Well, I'm Roman Catholic. I've done a lot of penance for that. Okay, I paid my dues to the Republican Party. I obviously paid my dues to the president. But you know what happened there is that I was my first foray into politics. President Obama and I had gone to law school together, and I thought he was going to be a moderate to more right of center as it related to business. I was still really getting up to speed, frankly, on my own political philosophy. You know, as hard as this may sound, given how strident things are today, I was fairly politically agnostic back then, mostly focused on my business. And so a group of my friends were supporting him, and so I agreed to be a team player to kick in. Once I realized that he was overregulating the economy, had an anti-business agenda, I said, boy, I better really form a real definitive personal and political philosophy. And so I migrated back to my traditional home, which was in the Republican Party, and I worked for Mitt Romney and obviously had the opportunity to work for President Trump.
And you became a Trump surrogate on the campaign trail, but only after you supported Scott Walker first and Jeb Bush. They went out, and then you got the call from President Trump. In your book, you detail how he predicted that eventually you would come to him, kind of gravitate him like magnets, I guess. And my favorite line, Anthony, from your book, my favorite line, I have to quote it if you give me the moment to do so. It was this part on page 227 when you say, "My colleagues in finance ask me what it was like working in Washington, D.C., I tell them to imagine the worst, most maniacally ruthless person they ever worked with in business, Gordon Gekko with a genital rash, the kind of guy who would screw you over, burn your house down, rob you blind if it meant he would get ahead. That person, I tell them, would be an Eagle Scout in Washington, D.C. I don't know if you meant it, but when I was reading that line, I thought of one person, Reince Priebus. Were you directing that line at him? Was this kind of overall?
Want to see more videos like this? Click on the link below and subscribe to One America News on YouTube, and call your cable provider and kindly demand that One America News is added to your lineup. Call and subscribe today.